You're watching the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. Coming up, 5 moves that the 49ers could make since they didn't trade for Julio Jones. But first, Kyle Shanahan spoke this week for the first time about the Niners not trading for Julio Jones. So let's get you caught up on everything happening out of Santa Clara and with what went down with this Julio Jones trade to the Tennessee Titans. Atlanta receiving a 2022 second-round pick as well as a 2023 fourth-round pick. And a big reason why a lot of 49ers fans were very confused and maybe frustrated that the 49ers didn't pull the trigger on one of the best wide receivers in the league. They currently have $17.7 million in cap space according to Over the Cap. Julio Jones' base salary for this upcoming season, north of $15 million. So that salary cap figure also plays into the 5 moves that I think the 49ers could make after not making the deal for Julio. Here's what Kyle Shanahan had to say about not pulling the trigger on this deal. Everyone knows we don't have a first-round pick, but what happens when you don't have a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick and you lose a number of guys in free agency, which you never can for sure count on? Then you end up going into a draft and you've got to get 6 new spots, but all you have is a 3rd and 5th-round pick. It's kind of tough to build a team that way and to consistently do it, but he's a hell of a player. He's going to definitely help Tennessee, and everyone knows how special he is. But you've got to think about the short term and the long term, and that's why those things are so risky for everybody. 49ers fans, I saw you in the comment section, some of you in shambles, some of you broken up that the Niners don't have Julio on the roster. Are you mad that they didn't trade for Julio? Type N for mad, type N for not mad. Get your votes in the comment section down below. 49ers have north of $17 million in cap space. So coming up right now, 5 moves that the 49ers could make after not trading for Julio Jones. And I want to start this list off with going in and diving into Zach Ertz, because I have said here on the channel, I think this is a prime trade candidate for the Niners, and it's a move that I think they should definitely make. Eagles have been trying to trade Zach Ertz for a long time, and at his peak, from 2014 to 2019, he was one of the best tight ends across the entire NFL, and I'd love to see Kyle Shanahan and in that outside zone scheme go with more 12 personnel, because I think it makes the offense less predictable, and I think it makes this offense a little bit more potent. And could you imagine Zach Ertz and George Kittle on the field at the same time, especially when Zach Ertz, he's a California native, went to Monte Vista High School, which is about 40 minutes outside of San Francisco. Bring Zach Ertz home and get him out of the hellhole that is Philadelphia right now. I talk about Zach Ertz at his prime being one of the best tight ends across the entire league. From 2014 to 2019, he was just that. Here are his averages per season during that 6-year span. Very durable, 15 games played per year, 81.5 yards per game per season. He was putting forward almost 900 yards per season, and he was reeling in almost 5.2 touchdowns on a yearly basis. Those receptions numbers, those are very, very elite at 81.5 catches every single year. That was his average for a 6-year time span, and a lot of people are clouded with the fact that Zach Ertz didn't have a 2020. Throw away 2020 when you were evaluating Zach Ertz. A couple of issues that came to the forefront last year with the Philadelphia Eagles and Zach Ertz. From training camp, he got in a heated exchange with Eagles general manager Howie Roseman because Howie Roseman didn't want to extend him and keep him a career-long Philadelphia Eagle. Zach Ertz was also injured up and down throughout the entire season and had to deal with some of the worst quarterback play that we have seen in modern NFL history, because Carson Wentz last year was abysmal. So don't look at Zach Ertz's 2020 and say the guy can't play anymore. He's on an affordable salary at $8.5 million. He's only 30 years old. Bring him back to the San Francisco Santa Clara era and let's see him ball out next to George Kittle. Should the 49ers trade for him? Type T for trade, type P for pass. Let me know what you're thinking on this one. Let's move ahead with Richard Sherman now. Still in the open market as a free agent. There's been some rumblings that the New Orleans Saints and Sherman are possibly interested in a contract. And I understand that Sherman is 33 years old, but he's a 3-time first-team All-Pro. And as recent as 2019 with the Niners during that Super Bowl year, he was a second-team All-Pro guy, and I still think he can bring a lot to the table even at that age. We're talking about a future Hall of Famer, a multi-time Pro Bowler and All-Pro who can fill a variety of roles for the 49ers, both starting, backing up and being a tutor and a mentor for some of the young cornerbacks on this roster. Talk about that second team All-Pro season back in 2019. 49ers fans fell in love with Sherm because of what he did that year, helping lead the 49ers to the Super Bowl. 61 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 11 pass breakups to go along with 3 interceptions. I'm not saying that at 33, Richard Sherman is going to be able to put up these numbers. And in fact, if he's getting as many snaps as he was in 2019, I think that's somewhat of a problem. But if he's willing to come back at an affordable price and fill a role, I'm all in, especially when the Niners have more than $17 million of cap space. So do you think the 49ers should re-sign Richard Sherman? Type R for re-sign, type L for let him leave. Get your votes in and let me know if you think the Niners should bring back a familiar face. 49ers training camp kicking off on July 31st. You want to look fresh with a training camp 49ers hat? You can do so if you go to chatsports.com/Niners hats, because thanks to our friends at Fanatics and the NFL, 49ers training camps are on sale right now. Gray color, black color. You can even go with the Kyle Shanahan flat brim bill if you want to be swagged out like Shanny. Go to chatsports.com/Niners hats. For those of you watching live right now, that link is down below in the description. For those of you watching after the fact, it is in the description as well as the comments. I honestly might go ahead and rock the gray one. But also, hey, Father's Day coming up too. So if you need to squeeze in some last-minute Father's Day shopping and get your pops one of these 49ers training camp hats, you can do so. Chatsports.com/Niners hats. They're on sale right now, so get that deal before it expires. Move ahead with some more moves the 49ers could make after not bringing in Julio Jones. Want to focus in on Justin Houston. My rule, you can never have enough pass rushers, especially on the edge. And Justin Houston, like Richard Sherman, is somewhat old. The Colts general manager, Chris Ballard, basically a couple months ago closed the door on Justin Houston returning. And yes, he's older. 49ers fans are very fed up with all of the injury issues that have suffered and surfaced with this franchise. But Justin Houston, even in the twilight of his career, still a pretty good player. We're talking about a guy who last year still had 8 sacks in 2020, and I think that he could be an incredible depth piece along what I think could be one of the best 49ers defensive fronts that we have seen in recent history. And the production for Justin Houston has been there for a really long time, going all the way back to 2011, which really makes me feel ancient because I graduated high school in 2010. This is crazy. Justin Houston, his rookie year, 5.5 sacks, then 10, then 11, then 22, 7.5 sacks in 2015. He's also been consistently available as well, with the exception of like 2 seasons. 2016, that was an injury-shortened season for Justin Houston. He only had 4 sacks, but 2017 goes back up to 9.5. 2018 compiled 9 sacks. 2019, that's only 2 years ago when he was, 30-31. That's 11 sacks. And in 2020, 8 sacks. So throughout his illustrious career, 97.5 total. Bruce Smith has the record at somewhere around like 200 sacks throughout his NFL career, but no doubt Justin Houston has been one of the best edge rushers and get-afterers of the quarterback in recent NFL history. So rate Justin Houston as a player in this current moment right now as we sit here on this Thursday. A, B, C, D, or F. Get your votes in the comments section and let me know. How about Jamison Crowder? Keep an eye on this buzz as we move forward to training camp, because he hasn't been at Jets OTAs because of contract issues. He's entering the final year of a 3-year, $28.5 million contract. And this upcoming season, Jamison Crowder, who is a pretty solid wide receiver, I wouldn't say he's great by any means, has a cap hit of $11.35 million for 2021. A pretty manageable number. But if on the open market next season, once his contract expires, he's demanding 15, I wouldn't want to trade for a player of this caliber and pay him that price. But he's been pretty productive the last 2 years with some horrendous quarterback play at times in New York with Adam Gase as head coach, who was an absolute stiff. 78 receptions in 2019, 833 yards. Average yards per catch, okay at 10.7. He's more of a kind of possession wide receiver and a guy who can move the chains. 6 touchdowns, though. And that's been kind of the consistent theme with him over the last 2 years, is this is a guy who can reel in touchdown passes. In the past 2 seasons, he has combined for 12 touchdowns. Last year, missed a couple of games, 4 of them to be exact, only played 12. Still able to have have a pretty productive season, and if he continues to hold out because of those contract issues, maybe he is going to be a trade target. And if the 49ers need a wide receiver and they want to pay him that money with north of $17 million in cap space, they can certainly afford him as well as another player on this list. So should the 49ers pull the trigger on Jamison Crowder? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. He's either going to be playing with Zach Wilson or another team this upcoming season. What do you think? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. One more move I'm also monitoring. I'd also take a flyer on Melvin Ingram. Like Justin Houston, he's older, 32 years old. In 2020, he only played 7 games, 10 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. But like Justin Houston, he has put together a very, very impressive resume. And I want to go back to my rule of this. You can never have enough edge rushers and enough players who can get after the quarterback and cause opposing offenses havoc to make the secondary's job much, much easier. I understand he only played 7 games last year. 49ers fans have nightmares about injury issues, but if he's only asking for $2-3 million, you pay a player of this caliber. Name a player you want the 49ers to sign or trade who I didn't mention. I think you can all cook up some pretty solid names, and when you do that, leave those names in the comment section down below after the show. I'm going to go ahead and see what you all come up with, and maybe one of those names will be featured on a future show.